They're not addressing the issue of constitutionality or legality of the proclamation. But again, just like probably the impeachment proceedings, the numbers would prevail. So we don't know. Let's closely monitor the proceedings in Congress tomorrow. Now, so as I said, the CHR, well, there are serious challenges that the executive department faces in maintaining martial law in Maguindanao. The most serious of this is the justification that a state of rebellion exists. We have also examined the elements of rebellion under the revised penal code. It certainly does not fall within any of those elements. Now, they say that a state of rebellion exists based on intelligence reports of massive non-state armies in Maguindanao and the failure of the local governments to render services. The military forces have been there, or are there. There were enough military forces even before even before martial law was declared. And about the failure of local governments to function is just a question of the ILG coming in and putting in putting in place the rule of succession under the local government code. The CHR is vehemently opposed, as I said, as the situation did not call for it and the legal basis is clearly absent. The CHR also is vehemently opposed to the military takeover of civilian government functions and civilian facilities, especially the schools. We saw over the news, over news reports that they're even occupying school compounds. That is clearly unacceptable. There should be no substitution of military officials in place of civilian authorities. It may be a friendly martial law, but it is not constitutional. Okay? Now, EJKs, enforced disappearance, and illegal arrests. As I said, the report of Karapatan is very factual. Now, Auckland Bantay Laya 2, the CHR remains very concerned that in the countryside, the military consistently invites public speculation that abuses are committed in furtherance of anti-insurgency operations. The murder of Father Lucero is particularly disturbing because of his reputation as a human rights advocate. Now, his consistent reproach of locally detailed military officials on the military. Now, during a recent public inquiry in Calvario City, the investigating authorities committed to us, Maria were there, committed to us that they will be arresting somebody already in connection with the killing of Father Lucero within 10 days from the date of public inquiry. Sa tingin ko lumampas na yung 10 days. Now, on further especially during the executive session we had with various witnesses, victims, families of victims that was organized by Karapatan alongside the public inquiry in Samar, we have reason to believe that the killing of Father Lucero is connected to the Lope de Vega massacre. We cannot yet explain or give out the particulars why we are saying that. For the security of the witness concerned, there is some indication that that is connected to that. Because that massacre was previous. And sa massacre po yun, yung mga alleged perpetrators na naman are Kakus. So again, it highlights the, it's really dangerous to be arming these paramilitary forces. And there should not be paramilitary forces because it is the mandate of the uniformed services, the AFP and the PNP, to keep the peace and not to abdicate it in favor of unaccountable civilian components. The conduct of anti-insurgency operations must be harmonized with the work of human rights advocates. A real effort must be made to distinguish oneself as a bona fide human rights worker from an insurgent. Where this delineation is clear, it leaves no available excuse for the military to justify force. In fact, it places even more onus on the AFP and PNP to protect all civilians from rogue elements in the state security forces and unidentified assailants. Doon po nakakatakot yung mga unidentified assailants na yan. Like for example, in our investigation of the Melissa Rojas case, also for protecting communities and witnesses. And in that regard, we do appreciate the work of Karapatan and other NGOs because I know the difficulty and the lengths that they have to go through just to be able to properly and promptly document cases of enforced disappearance and EJKs. The key is to find solutions to the imbalance created by a monopoly of force on the side of rogue forces. As we have found, our constant denouncing has not impelled an institutional policy shift in military operations. We must come up with more creative solutions. On organized efforts to fabricate charges against leftist and anti-administration stalwarts, there is a need to better monitor the progress of their cases. The lack of progress and the lack of attention paid the slow-moving wheels of court proceedings only lengthen detentions and therefore only worsen the violations being committed against them. On the displacement of communities because of military operations, the CHR has intervened recently in Surigao del Sur, again on the request and referral of Karapatan, to pave the way for the return of civilians to their homes. We need to concentrate effort and attention on communities that we work with, even as human rights defenders are subjected to harassment and threats. And even the chairperson is at times subjected to harassment, including legal suits. Denouncing the effect of operations and even abuses on entire communities instead of individual personalities is a more intuitive way of generating greater public awareness of the conduct of AFP operations. On this note, we have to generate even more public attention to all of the communities terrorized and displaced by military operations. The human rights situation in the remote areas at times are unspeakable. The human rights violations in remote areas not subject to scrutiny and exposure by the media can at times be really unspeakable. The solution in the Surigao case involving displaced Manobos and other Lumas is replicable, and it puts the AFP on its heels in the face of strong public assertions for the protection of human rights. Now on mining and IPs, adding to the point on the placing focus on communities instead of individuals, especially important in IP communities which face the threat of mining operations. Cases of mining-related abuses, such as those in Nueva Vizcaya and Mindoro, have successfully reached nationally attention, and somehow it has the effect of suspending further operations and then the revocation of the permits in Mindoro. So national attention has been, again, the key, just like the rest of the other human rights abuses that the CHR are attending to this current year. Again, nagpapasalamat po kami sa Karapatan sa kanilang, kasi alam mo, napilito po sa Karapatan kasi alam ko na konti lang sila. Pero sila pa palagi ang nauuna sa mga lugar kung saan may mga reported human rights abuses and incidents because of their dedication and passion. Maraming salamat po.